From the 38th floor of Hale Technologies, Nathan stood by the window, watching droplets trail down like they were racing toward the earth. The view was stunning. Puget Sound in the distance, ferries gliding like whispers across the water. But to him, it felt like looking out of a museum exhibit. All this space, all this silence, all this success, and not a single voice waiting at home. Behind him, the office buzzed. A board meeting had just ended in polished chaos. Investors nervous, PR on edge, another product launch teetering under the weight of market pressure. His assistant, Miles, rattled off updates from the hallway, phone pressed to his ear. Nathan tuned it out. "Sir, the VC dinner's been moved to 7, Miles said, stepping in, and the post-launch debrief is now virtual. You'll have a gap before the gala." "Cancel the dinner," Nathan said, still facing the window. Miles hesitated. "Do you want me to reschedule or—" "Just cancel it." Nathan turned, brushing a hand through his neatly combed hair. The Rolex on his wrist flashed under the recessed lights. "Tell them I had a scheduling conflict." He didn't offer more. Miles didn't ask. They both knew it didn't matter. Nathan Hale could move markets with a sentence. People would adjust. He walked to his desk, the soles of his leather shoes silent on the polished floor. The screen of his phone blinked. 6 missed calls from his mother, Vivian. The last voicemail had come with an attached itinerary for the Seattle Philanthropy Gala. Seating plans, dress codes, an underlined note, "You must speak." "It's expected." He swiped it away. Nathan grabbed his keys. His Aston Martin waited in the underground garage like a coiled panther, elegant, fast. Cold. He liked it that way. 10 minutes later, he was on the freeway, windshield wipers thrumming like a heartbeat. Rain splattered against the glass, distorting headlights into starbursts. He should have stayed at the office, should have worked through projections or returned calls or reviewed the legal memo about that data breach overseas. But he couldn't focus. Not lately, not since last week. He had come home to silence. Again, no messages, no footprints in his life outside of deals and handshakes. He had looked in the mirror and wondered, not for the first time, what his life would have looked like if he had fought harder, if he hadn't let her go. Celia. The name came uninvited, like a whisper from somewhere deeper than memory. 3 years, exactly 3 years since the divorce papers arrived with no note, no explanation. Just her signature. She had left while he was away in Hong Kong finalizing the merger of a lifetime. When he returned, the condo was empty. No toothbrush in the holder, no books on the nightstand, no Celia. And he hadn't gone after her. That was the worst part. His phone buzzed again, jolting him. He glanced down. Another calendar reminder. Harborview Medical Foundation Gala, 8 p.m. Vivian will be there. Of course she would. He exhaled through his nose and flicked on the turn signal. Maybe he'd go home, skip the gala altogether. Or maybe he'd just keep driving. Then, out of nowhere, brake lights. A sudden halt. A ride-share vehicle skidded across lanes ahead of him. Nathan swerved instinctively to avoid it, his tires slicing through the rainwater pooled on the road. His hands tightened on the wheel, eyes narrowing. His car jolted. He jerked right, catching the barrier just enough to jolt his chest against the seatbelt. The dashboard lit up, engine warning, tire pressure low. He pulled off at the nearest exit. 20 minutes later, he sat in the ER intake at Harborview Medical Center. The irony wasn't lost on him. The same hospital where his mother served on the board, where he'd donated to build the West Wing, where he hadn't been inside since the grand opening ribbon cutting 4 years ago. His head throbbed lightly from the jolt, but he'd refused the ambulance. "Just needed a quick check," he told the intake nurse. "Nothing serious." He sat in a plastic chair, hands resting on his lap. Around him, the waiting room hummed with fluorescent fatigue, families whispering, children coughing, the soft blip of a vending machine rejecting someone's crumpled dollar bill. "Mr. Hale," a nurse called, stepping out from the hallway. He looked up, prepared to nod, to follow her back and check the box, but his breath caught halfway through the motion. The nurse wasn't just any nurse. It was her. Celia. Her hair was shorter now, tucked into a low bun under her hospital ID badge. Her navy scrubs looked like they'd seen a long shift, sleeves wrinkled and pocket weighed down with a penlight and tablet. She held a clipboard in her hand, but when their eyes met, it slipped slightly. Just slightly, her fingers tightened around it. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Nathan stood slowly. His mouth opened, but nothing came out. The silence between them screamed. Celia blinked first. "Nathan," she said carefully, professionally, as if speaking to a stranger. He stepped closer, heart pounding louder than it had during the accident. I didn't know you worked here," he said, his voice lower than usual. Less polished, less prepared. She didn't answer. Her face was calm, but her eyes, those brown eyes, flashed with something complicated. Panic, guilt. "Pain? Please follow me," she said, turning. He walked behind her down the corridor, past walls lined with children's drawings and fundraising plaques. They stopped at a small intake bay. "I'm not your nurse," she said before he could speak. "I just happened to be at the desk when your name popped up." Nathan nodded. He wanted to say something, ask her why, ask where she'd been. Ask about the way her voice still echoed in his memory, soft and angry the last time she said goodbye. Instead, the curtain beside them suddenly rustled open. "Mom!" A child's voice. High-pitched, familiar, Celia turned instinctively. 3 children, 2 boys and 1 girl, rushed into the hallway from a pediatric bay, their jackets wet from rain, their sneakers squeaking on the tile. Nathan stared at them, stunned, their eyes. One of the boys had his jawline. The girl had her mother's eyes, but Nathan's unmistakable gaze, and the youngest, quiet, smaller, pale, looked up at him like a mirror. Celia froze. "Leo, Lila, Finn, back inside now," she said quickly, her voice cracking. Nathan couldn't move. The girl looked up at him curiously. "Who's that, Mommy?" Celia hesitated. Nathan's world tilted. He looked from the children to her and back again. "You have kids," he said softly, already knowing. She nodded, barely, then whispered, "Triplets." The sound of the word cracked something open inside him. Triplets. And in that instant, Nathan Hale, tech CEO, billionaire, master of markets, forgot every quarterly report, every investor pitch, every dollar in his portfolio, because he'd just met 3 tiny strangers who carried his face. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought mattered to me either way. Nathan stood there as if gravity had shifted. Celia was no longer speaking. The hallway felt smaller now, warmer, louder. He couldn't look away from the 3 small strangers who somehow didn't feel like strangers at all. "Inside now," Celia said again, firmer this time. The children obeyed, their little sneakers squeaking back behind the curtain. Nathan's voice came out uneven. "Are they mine?" Celia turned to him slowly. Her breath caught in her chest, but her face didn't flinch. "They're my children," she said softly. "But are they?" "Yes." The answer landed with no apology, no embellishment. Just the truth. Simple. Devastating. He swallowed. His fingers curled against his palm, as if trying to hold something that wasn't there. 3 years ago, when you left, I was already pregnant, she finished for him. Yes. The world narrowed into a sharp point. And you didn't think I deserved to know? Celia's eyes hardened slightly. Don't do that. Don't act like you were some helpless bystander in our marriage, Nathan. He stepped back, as if struck, not by anger, but by recognition. He had rehearsed this confrontation in his head for years, imagined seeing her again, but never like this. Never with children involved. You could have called, he whispered. And you could have listened, she fired back. A silence fell between them, deep and wide, and full of everything they'd never said. He looked toward the curtain, where the triplets had disappeared. They're beautiful. Celia's shoulders relaxed a fraction. They are. What are their names? Leo, Lila, and Finn. Nathan nodded, repeating the names under his breath like a prayer. How old? They'll be 5 in November. 5, he echoed, staring down at the floor. I missed everything. Celia hesitated, her voice softened. Not everything. There's still time, if that's what you want. The words hovered between them, fragile as glass. Before Nathan could speak, a call came overhead. Celia Moreno to PEDS, room 307. She glanced up. I have to go. Can we talk? He asked, his voice low, strained. Not here. She looked at him fully now, her eyes no longer guarded, but heavy. Come tomorrow, after your checkup. I'll meet you in the back courtyard. Noon, he nodded. She turned, slipping behind the curtain, disappearing into the pediatric unit as if she were just any nurse. As if she hadn't just detonated his entire understanding of the past 3 years. Nathan stood in the hallway long after she was gone. The next morning, the clouds still hadn't broken. Seattle wore its usual coat of gray as Nathan sat through his post-accident evaluation. The doctor cleared him, said he was lucky, but Nathan didn't hear much. He kept replaying Celia's voice in his head. He had a son, he had a daughter. He had 3. At 11:58, he found himself standing by the staff courtyard at the rear of Harborview Medical. It was quiet, tucked behind the main building. Benches, a little garden, a breeze that carried the faint smell of mint and rain-soaked stone. At 12:03 she appeared, still in scrubs with a lab coat this time, a coffee cup in one hand, her badge clipped neatly to her pocket. Her curls had come undone slightly in the damp air. You came, she said, as if unsure he would. I didn't sleep, he admitted. Neither did I. They sat on a bench, a space of uncertainty between them. Nathan turned to her, eyes raw. Why didn't you tell me, Celia? She stared ahead. Because when I left, you were already gone. I was building the company. You were building your mother's idea of what success looks like. Her voice was steady, but her hands trembled faintly. I needed a partner, not a press release. He closed his eyes. I didn't know you were pregnant. I was going to tell you, that night, our anniversary. But you cancelled again for some deal in Tokyo, he remembered. The deal that saved the company, the deal that killed his marriage. I sat in our bedroom with an ultrasound in my purse waiting for you, she whispered. But instead your mother showed up. His eyes snapped open. What? She said you were under too much pressure, that if I really loved you, I wouldn't tie you down. That I didn't belong in your world. Celia looked at him, voice brittle. And you know what hurt the most? I believed her. Because you didn't stop her. Nathan's heart sank. She told me you left without a word. I thought you didn't want anything to do with me. Why would I write to a man who didn't fight for me, she said. I wasn't going to raise 3 children in a world where love came second to market share. He stared at her, all the words stuck in his throat. I didn't know how to fight for anything that didn't have a dollar sign. You do now? She asked, not with bitterness, but genuine curiosity. I'm trying. She nodded slowly, eyes glossy but unfallen. That's something. Nathan looked at her again, really looked. The woman who once laid beside him every night, who laughed when he couldn't fold towels right, who kissed him in grocery aisles. She was stronger now. Calmer, but tired, so tired. "Can I see them?" he asked. Celia paused. "They don't know you exist." His breath caught. "I never spoke badly about you," she added quickly. "I told them their dad lived far away and that I wasn't sure he was ready to be a dad yet. I said maybe one day he'd come." His chest ached. "I want to meet them. You'll start as a friend," she said. "No dramatic introductions. No surprise, I'm your dad." They're sensitive. Especially Finn. He's got a minor heart issue. Stress hits him hard. Nathan nodded, guilt spreading like wildfire through his chest. "Whatever you need, however you need me to show up, I'll do it." She turned to him, eyes narrowing like she didn't quite believe it yet, but maybe wanted to. "They have a routine, ballet on Mondays, swim class on Thursdays. Finn sees a specialist every other Friday. They love rockets, dinosaurs, and gummy vitamins." He smiled weakly. "So, regular kids?" "No, they're amazing kids," she said firmly. "And you're not entitled to them. You'll have to earn their trust." "I want to," he said, his voice breaking. "God, Celia. I didn't know what I was missing, and now that I do..." She held up a hand. "Stop. Don't make promises to me. Make them to them." He nodded. She stood. "We're going to the park Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Green Lake. There's a science fair. You can come as a friend. Bring juice boxes, not apologies." He stood too. "Juice boxes. Got it." She turned to go, then paused. "And Nathan?" "Yeah? If you ever decide to leave again, don't come back unless you're really ready." Then she walked away, back into the hospital, back into the life she'd built without him. And Nathan, standing alone in the garden, felt something he hadn't felt in years: hope. Terrifying, fragile, but real. The air at Green Lake Park was cool, touched with the crispness of early fall. Maple leaves skittered across the pavement like small whispers of time passing. Children's laughter echoed from the playground, and somewhere nearby, a dog barked with relentless joy. Nathan stood near the parking lot, holding a box of organic juice boxes and a folded blanket under his arm. His usual tailored suit had been replaced by a charcoal sweater and dark jeans, clean but too new, as if he'd purchased them specifically for this. He had the shoes too, sneakers, still stiff. His assistant had bought 3 different brands just in case. He glanced around, unsure of where to go, until he spotted her. Celia was kneeling beside a small table in the kids' section of the science fair. Her hair was pulled into a loose braid, and she wore a denim jacket over a hoodie, coffee in one hand and a clipboard in the other. Around her, the triplets moved like tiny comets, bright, fast, impossible to contain. Nathan froze. Lila was arranging solar system cutouts in the correct orbit, whispering facts under her breath. Leo was asking a volunteer what kind of rocket fuel real astronauts used, his hands animated. And Finn, quieter, stood back from the crowd, adjusting the plastic Saturn ring on their group project. His project. Their world. Nathan swallowed hard, his feet heavy as stone. Then Celia looked up and saw him. He raised the juice boxes like a peace offering. Her face gave nothing away, but she stood and walked over. She stopped a foot away, arms crossed loosely. "You came. You asked me to. And you followed instructions, juice boxes and everything." She glanced down. "No fancy water with gold flakes?" He gave a nervous chuckle. "Still in the trunk." A pause. She looked over at the kids. They're excited. They just don't know why yet. "Can I help with anything?" "Just be present. Be still. No meetings, no phones. Today, you're just a man at the park who happens to care about 3 little humans who love space. He nodded. And Nathan, she added, softer now. Don't try too hard. They'll feel it. He let out a breath. Okay. Come on, she said. It's their turn to present. They walked side by side toward the display table. Finn saw him first. He tugged on Celia's sleeve and whispered something. Celia crouched beside him and spoke gently. Finn hesitated, then looked up at Nathan. Hi, the boy said softly, his voice almost shy. Nathan's heart stopped. Hi, Finn. I heard you made a whole planet. It's Jupiter, Finn said, his voice a little stronger now. And I painted the storm, the big red one. Nathan smiled, crouching down. You did? That's my favorite part of Jupiter. Finn blinked. Most people like the rings. But that's Saturn. I know, but storms are more interesting, don't you think? They show how strong a planet really is. Finn considered that. Yeah, Jupiter is brave, Leo ran over. Mom, Lila forgot the glue for the second poster. I didn't forget it, Leo, Lila shouted from behind a poster board. I used it all last night for the moons. Celia pinched the bridge of her nose. Okay, deep breaths. Lila, Leo, let's solve the problem, not blame each other. Nathan watched, amazed at how smoothly she handled them. 3 different personalities, 3 different energies. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't flinch. She just anchored them. They're a handful, he murmured. They're my heart, she replied. And sometimes, my migraine. Lila suddenly pointed at Nathan. Are you Mom's friend? Nathan blinked. I hope so. Lila tilted her head. You dress funny for a dad. Celia winced. Nathan smiled. That's because I'm learning. Can you build stuff? Some things. Can you do braids? He faltered. That might take some practice. Lila eyed him like a scientist studying a new species. Okay. You can stay, Leo groaned. Ugh, Lila, you're not the boss of people. I said he can stay, not be in charge. Finn tugged Nathan's sleeve. You can help me hold the planet while we talk. Nathan knelt beside him, his hands shaking slightly as he held up the Jupiter model. Finn stepped beside him and looked out at the little audience of parents and teachers. This is Jupiter. It's really big. Bigger than all the other planets combined. It has moons, a lot of them. And a big storm that never stops. We don't know why it never ends. Nathan looked at him, and for a moment he wasn't holding a foam ball with red paint. He was holding something sacred. And Finn added, It's brave, like my mom. Nathan looked at Celia. She didn't blink, but her hand tightened on the coffee cup. After the presentation, the triplets ran to the climbing structure nearby, buzzing with energy. Nathan and Celia sat on the grass, the blanket between them. You're good with them, she said, after a long silence. They're easy to love. Celia looked down. It took a long time to get here. The early years were rough. Finn was in and out of the hospital. Leo barely slept. Lila needed constant attention. I almost gave up. Why didn't you? Because they didn't ask to be born into chaos. I owed them peace. Nathan rubbed the back of his neck. I missed everything. You missed the hard parts too, she said quietly. And that's the part I'm still working through. He nodded, the guilt pooling deep. I can't change what I missed, but I'm here now. Celia looked at him. Are you? He met her eyes. Yes. She held his gaze, then glanced at the kids. They like you. That's rare. They don't warm up to people easily. I'm glad, he said, voice thick. I want to be in their lives. Then you need to show up. Not just for field days and science fairs, for dentist appointments, for show and tell. For the nights when someone throws up at 2 a.m. and the world feels like it's falling apart. I can do that. Prove it. They sat there in silence, the sounds of children echoing around them, the light shifting through trees like slow applause. For the first time in a long time, Nathan didn't feel like a CEO trying to manage a moment. He felt like a man trying to earn back the one thing that couldn't be bought: trust. And beside him, Celia leaned back on her hands, watching the three little worlds she had built. And the man who once abandoned her orbit, now slowly finding his way back. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought mattered to me either way. Rain returned the next morning like it had never left. Seattle's skies opened up in slow waves, soft but constant, as though the city itself couldn't quite let go of its sadness. Nathan sat at his kitchen counter, staring into a cup of coffee that had gone cold 30 minutes ago. The juice boxes from yesterday were still in a grocery bag by the door. He couldn't bring himself to unpack them. He had met his children. He had held a painted model of Jupiter beside his son. And now, his entire world had shifted. Every meeting, every quarterly report, every perfectly calculated merger, none of it prepared him for the ache in his chest. His phone buzzed beside him. Vivian Hale. 6 missed calls. 1 new voicemail. He ignored it. Then he opened the family calendar Celia had shared with him via email. It was color-coded, filled with activities, appointments, and reminders. This wasn't just a schedule, it was a map of their lives, and he wasn't on it. Not yet. He read through it again, memorizing everything. Swim lessons, pediatric checkups, Lila's ballet class, Leo's fascination with robotics club, Finn's cardiology appointment next Friday. He added them all to his calendar. Then he opened a new email to Celia Moreno. Subject: Thank you, Celia. Thank you for letting me be part of yesterday. I know I don't deserve the space you've given me, but I'm grateful. I'd like to be there for Finn's appointment next Friday, if that's okay with you. And I'd like to bring dinner sometime this week. Something simple. I want to help. Nathan. He hit send. The reply came 2 hours later. Dinner's okay, but nothing fancy. They like mac and cheese. Homemade, not boxed. Finn's allergic to cashews. Thursday works. 6 p.m. You bring the food. I'll bring the backup Band-Aids. A tiny smile tugged at his lips. He didn't know how to make mac and cheese from scratch. But he was about to find out. Thursday came fast. Nathan stood outside Celia's apartment balancing a covered dish, a small bouquet of sunflowers, and an internal monologue of "Don't screw this up, don't screw this up, don't screw this up." The door opened before he could knock. "Hi," Celia said, brows slightly lifted. He offered the sunflowers. "These felt like your kind of flowers." She took them with a quiet nod. "They are. I hope I got the recipe right. No nuts. No truffle oil, just butter, cheddar, and elbow pasta." "You actually cooked?" she asked, one brow raised. He held up his bandaged thumb. "There was a fight with the cheese grater. It won." Celia tried not to smile, but it broke through anyway. From behind her, tiny footsteps pounded the hardwood. "Is it pasta night?" Leo called out. "Did you bring cheese?" Lila added. Finn peeked from behind a doorway, holding a stuffed fox. Nathan stepped inside, heart pounding. The apartment was modest, warm, lived in, toys in bins. Finger paintings on the fridge. A handwritten chore chart on the wall. He wasn't a guest. He was stepping into a life that had moved on without him, but Celia was watching, and she didn't stop him. Dinner was loud. Lila dominated conversation with tales of her dream to become a rocket ballerina, a concept Nathan tried to understand. Leo critiqued the mac and cheese like a food judge on television. Finn sat quietly, occasionally nudging the stuffed fox into his noodles. "You made this?" Lila asked, squinting at Nathan. "I did." "Next time, add peas." "Peas?" "Peas are fancy." "But not too fancy. Just enough." Nathan nodded seriously. "I'll keep that in mind." After dinner, Celia began clearing plates, and Nathan joined her in the kitchen. "You don't have to do this," she said, rinsing a fork. "I want to," he replied, drying dishes. A pause. "They like you." "I like them." Celia handed him another plate. "They ask about you, but I'm keeping it vague, until we're sure." "Sure of what?" he asked carefully. "Of whether this is a phase for you," she said, "or something real." The words landed hard. "I get it," he said, setting the plate down. "You don't trust me yet. I trust you with a dinner plate. That's a start. Then let me build from there." She looked at him. "You were never cruel, Nathan." "But you were gone. All the time. Even when you were home, you weren't present." "I know," he admitted. "I thought if I could provide enough, it would be enough." It wasn't. Her words were quiet but not bitter, just honest. "I thought about calling," he said. "When the divorce papers came, when I came back from Hong Kong and realized the house was empty. But I kept thinking, if you really wanted to talk, you would have left a note." "I did," she whispered. His brows furrowed. "What?" "I wrote a note," she said, drying her hands. "Left it on your pillow. It said I was pregnant. It said I needed you to choose us, not your mother. Not your board. Us." Nathan's throat tightened. "I never saw it." Celia turned slowly. "I believe you. I don't know what happened to it. Maybe the housekeeper threw it away. Maybe my mother—" "I believe you," she said again, louder this time. "Because if I don't believe you now, I'll never be able to move forward." Their eyes met, and something soft passed between them. Not forgiveness. Not yet. But the first seed of it. Lila interrupted the silence by bounding into the room in pajamas and a tutu. "Movie night!" she shouted. "Couch vote starts now." Nathan looked at Celia. She shrugged. "Welcome to Thursday." They all piled onto the sofa. Leo picked a space-themed cartoon. Lila crawled into a blanket cocoon. Finn sat beside Nathan, resting his stuffed fox on Nathan's knee without saying a word. Halfway through the movie, Finn leaned his head against Nathan's shoulder. Nathan froze. Then slowly, gently, he placed his arm around the boy. Celia watched from the armchair, arms folded around herself, eyes heavy. But she didn't speak. And in the quiet, in the glow of a cartoon planet spinning on the screen, Nathan Hale felt something break open. Not pain, not regret, love. Small, sudden, unmistakable. And this time, he wasn't going to miss it. Vivian Hale's footsteps echoed sharply across the polished marble floors of her Queen Anne estate. The morning sunlight, cold and filtered through sheer drapes, painted sterile shadows across the space. Her assistant, Miriam, stood near the arched window, tablet in hand. "He's missed 3 board strategy sessions," Vivian said without looking up, voice clipped. "And last night, he didn't return my call." Miriam cleared her throat softly. "He was seen at Harborview last week, then again at Green Lake, with 3 small children and a woman who, based on facial match, is—" "I know who it is," Vivian cut in, her jaw tightening. "Celia." A silence passed. Miriam tapped gently on the tablet. "Would you like me to arrange a meeting?" Vivian's eyes drifted to a photo on the mantel. Nathan and her, smiling in front of the Hailtech building, ribbon in hand, a legacy preserved. Controlled. "Not yet," she said. "He'll come to me." He always does. But Nathan didn't. He was at Whole Foods, pushing a cart down the cereal aisle with Lila seated in the basket, Leo evaluating each box like it was a stock option, and Finn holding a plush sloth to his chest, one hand clutching Nathan's fingers. "Dad," Lila sang, stretching out the word as if trying it on for size. Nathan turned, startled. "What?" she giggled. "Just checking if it works." He knelt down beside her. "You can call me whatever you want. I'm here." She considered this. "Okay. But you have to learn how to braid before it's official." "Deal." Leo appeared holding 2 boxes. "Which is better, Frosted Stars or Cinnamon Crunch?" "Let's go with stars. Less sugar." Leo rolled his eyes. "Ugh, that's what Mom says." "She's wise. She says you're trying to earn points." Nathan looked up. Celia had entered the aisle behind them, a reusable bag slung over her shoulder. "She's not wrong," he said. Celia smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "We need to talk." Nathan straightened. "About what?" She pulled him aside as the kids wandered toward the samples table. Her voice was low, careful. "Vivian called me." His stomach dropped. "She asked to see me. Said it was a matter of legacy, that I should reconsider your place in the kids' lives." "What did you say?" "That if she ever spoke to me like that again, I'd file a no-contact order." Nathan exhaled. "She had no right. She made it clear she doesn't consider me acceptable. That this situation is a stain. She's wrong." Celia leaned back slightly, her eyes locking on his. "Are you going to tell her that?" "Yes." "When?" "Now." Nathan didn't wait. The moment they returned home, he stepped into the quiet of Celia's kitchen and called his mother. Vivian answered on the second ring. "Nathan," she said, her voice silk over stone, "I've been expecting your call. I need you to stop." "No more contacting Celia. No more pressure. You had no right to interfere. She had no right to disappear with your children. She had every right to protect them from the mess I let you create." Vivian's silence bristled. "She's manipulating you. She's raising our kids, alone, and doing it beautifully. You're blinded." "No," Nathan said, voice firm now. "For the first time in my life, I'm finally seeing clearly." He ended the call before she could respond. Celia stepped into the doorway, watching him quietly. "I meant what I said," Nathan told her. "She doesn't control me anymore." Celia folded her arms, studying him. "And if she threatens to pull funding from Hailtech unless you fall back in line, then she'll be funding it alone." That night, after the kids were asleep, they sat on the balcony. The city glowed below them, silent, distant, and irrelevant. Between them, a quietness settled, not uncomfortable, but full of unsaid things. "I loved you," Celia said suddenly. "I mean, I still care. But back then, I thought we were building something together. I didn't realize I was just filling a space until you could afford the version of your life you really wanted." Nathan looked down at his hands. "I didn't know how to be present." "Not really. My dad left when I was 6. My mother turned control into love. Success into affection. I thought if I built enough, money, power, reputation, you'd stay. I didn't leave for lack of money, Nathan. I left because I was drowning." He looked up at her. "I'm sorry I didn't see it. I'm sorry I let you carry it all." She didn't answer right away. Then she whispered, "It was the loneliest kind of heartbreak. Loving someone who was always just out of reach." His voice cracked. "Do you think there's a version of us still out there? Not the perfect one. Just One that works. Celia's gaze softened. Maybe, but it has to be built on who we are now, not who we were. I want that, he said. Whatever it takes. The balcony lights flickered slightly as the wind picked up, brushing her hair across her cheek. She didn't pull away when he reached out to tuck it behind her ear, but she didn't lean in either. I'm not ready, she whispered. I'll wait. She met his eyes. Then don't wait passively. Show me. Show them. Every day. He nodded. I will. Inside, a nightlight glowed in the hallway. Finn stirred in his sleep. Lila muttered something about moons and sparkles. Leo had kicked his blanket off again. Celia rose. It's late. Nathan stood, but didn't move to leave. She looked at him, softer now. You can stay, on the couch. His heart skipped. For the kids, she added quickly. He smiled. Of course. For the kids. As she turned, her hand brushed his lightly. Not a promise, but not nothing. And for now, that was everything. Morning crept in quietly through the gauzy curtains of Celia's apartment, painting everything in a muted glow. The clock read 6:43 a.m., and the silence was almost unfamiliar. In the living room, Nathan stirred on the couch, the edges of a kid's blanket half tucked around him. A rainbow unicorn pillow was under his head. He blinked at the ceiling for a moment, listening. Footsteps, a quiet giggle, then another. Don't wake him yet, Finn whispered. I just want to poke his nose, Lila whispered back, already leaning over him. Nathan smiled before he opened his eyes. Morning, he said, voice hoarse from sleep. Lila froze mid-poke. You were supposed to be asleep. I was. But it's hard to sleep through a top-secret ninja mission. Leo appeared behind them, arms crossed. Did you bring pancakes? I brought cereal, Nathan said, sitting up, and a banana. Leo groaned. Dad, the word landed differently now, more solid, more sure. Like it belonged to both of them. Celia stepped into the hallway, already dressed for work, scrubs crisp, hair pulled into a high bun. She held a travel mug in one hand and a folded schedule in the other. You're up early, she said, surprised. Blame the ninja squad, Nathan replied, motioning to the kids. She smiled faintly and handed him the schedule. These are the next 2 weeks. School events, appointments, pickup shifts. I color-coded the ones you can help with. He took it like she'd handed him gold. I'll be at all of them, he said. Don't promise, she warned gently. Just show up. I will. Celia nodded once, then turned to the kids. Shoes on. I've got drop-off this morning. Nathan helped corral the triplets, handing out granola bars and tying laces. He'd never realized how much coordination it took to move 3 small humans out the door. By the time they were packed in the car, he was breathless. As Celia buckled them in, he lingered by the driver's window. I was thinking, he said. What if I take them Friday night? Just me. Give you a break. She looked at him. Alone? He nodded. If you're okay with that? Celia hesitated, then glanced back at the kids laughing in the back seat. Let's start with a few hours. Saturday afternoon, the park. I'll prep snacks, he smiled. Deal. They drove off, leaving Nathan alone in the quiet. By noon, he was in the boardroom at Hale Tech, surrounded by screens and murmuring voices. Marcus Blake, his COO and longtime friend, closed the door behind him and took a seat. You're late, Marcus said, not unkindly. I know. That's 3 meetings in 2 weeks, Nate. I know that too. Marcus studied him. Look, no one's questioning your commitment. But the investors, Vivian, they're watching. Nathan leaned back. Let them. This company doesn't run on family time. Nathan's jaw tightened. Maybe it should. Silence stretched between them. Then Nathan stood. Schedule a leadership offsite. I want the executive team to refocus on culture, not just profit. Marcus arched a brow. Is this about you being a dad now? This is about building something that won't fall apart the moment someone needs to step away to take care of what matters. Marcus nodded slowly, unsure. You really have changed. Nathan gave a half smile. You should meet my kids. That night, he stared at the empty kids' schedule pinned to his fridge. It still felt surreal, this life, but it was his now, not as a backup plan. Not as damage control, as purpose. Friday came quickly. Celia met him in the parking lot, arms crossed, eyes scanning his outfit. You brought backup clothes? She asked. Yes. And snacks, and wet wipes, and emergency stickers. Celia blinked. Emergency stickers? For emotional breakdowns, he said, holding up a glitter unicorn sticker. She laughed, and for a moment it felt like the way things used to be, just the two of them, making each other laugh with nothing fancy between them. I'll be nearby, she said, handing over a bag. Text me if Finn gets tired. He nodded and took the kids' hands. Okay, he said to them. Today's adventure starts now. Green Lake was buzzing. He let the triplets lead, past the duck pond to the sandbox to the swings. Leo wanted to race. Lila wanted to choreograph a ballet for ants. Finn asked to sit and count boats. Nathan did all of it. And when Finn grew quiet on the bench, clutching his fox toy tightly, Nathan knelt beside him. Hey, bud, you okay? Finn nodded, eyes distant. You sure? Finn looked up, lip trembling. I don't feel so good. Nathan scooped him into his lap, heart thudding. What hurts? Finn pointed to his chest. It's tight. Nathan's blood ran cold. Okay, deep breaths. We're gonna sit right here. He texted Celia immediately. Seconds later, she called. Sit him upright, she said. Tell him to breathe slow. I'm on my way. 10 minutes later, she arrived, breathless, crouching beside them. Nathan looked at her, guilt etched across his face. I didn't know what to do. You did the right thing, she said, stroking Finn's hair. He's okay. It's anxiety. He gets overwhelmed sometimes when he feels too much. Nathan's heart ached. When Finn had calmed and Celia sat beside Nathan on the bench, their arms barely touching, he let the silence breathe for a moment. I never knew parenting could feel like this, he said. Like holding joy and fear in the same hand. Celia nodded, eyes still on Finn. It's terrifying, and it's beautiful. He looked at her. You're incredible, Celia. She glanced at him. You're learning. Am I doing okay? She looked at him fully. You're showing up. That's more than most. They didn't speak again for a while, but when they stood to leave and Nathan reached for Finn's hand, the boy gave it without hesitation, and when Celia looked back at Nathan, there was something in her eyes he hadn't seen in a long time. Possibility. Seattle's rain took a break that Sunday morning, and the world felt lighter for it. The air still held that clean dampness, but above, a stretch of shy blue peeked through gray clouds. Nathan stood outside Celia's apartment building, a small, reusable tote in one hand, a rolled blueprint in the other. He took a slow breath before knocking. Celia opened the door in leggings and a faded college sweatshirt, her hair loosely pinned. She looked surprised to see him holding plans. Morning, she said, stepping aside. You're early. I brought muffins, he said, lifting the tote. And something else. Lila appeared behind her, already in mismatched socks and a tutu. What's in the tube? A surprise, Nathan said with a wink. You guys free for an art project? The triplets crowded around the coffee table as Nathan unrolled the blueprint with care. It revealed a hand-drawn sketch of a treehouse, 2 levels, rope ladder, reading nook, even a telescope slot at the top. Lila gasped. Is that for us? Nathan nodded. I thought it might be time we build something. Together. Leo circled the table. This is cool. Can we put in secret doors? Absolutely. Finn tilted his head. Where would it go? In your backyard, Nathan said, looking up at Celia. If it's okay. Celia raised her brows, folding her arms. That's a pretty big if. Nathan smiled gently. I'd build it myself. No contractors, no crews, just weekends, snacks, and supervision. The kids erupted in chatter. Celia narrowed her eyes playfully. You know what you're getting into? I'm a fast learner, he said, and I take direction well. The kids cheered. Lila danced. Leo started listing tools. Finn pulled a blanket over his lap and just stared at the blueprint like it was magic. Celia walked into the kitchen and Nathan followed, giving the kids space to dream. You didn't have to do this, she said softly, placing mugs in the sink. I know, he replied. But I wanted to. I missed building things that mattered. She leaned against the counter. You used to talk about having a family someday. I just didn't know I'd end up raising it alone. Nathan's shoulders dropped. Neither did I, but I don't want that anymore. I want to earn my place. Not just in their lives, Celia, but in yours too. She looked up at him, unsure whether to brace or believe. Before she could answer, her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced down, her jaw stiffened. It's Vivian. Nathan's heart sank. She's still calling you? She left a voicemail this morning. Wants to sit down and discuss options for the kids' education. She suggested private school. In Connecticut. What? He stepped closer. That's not her call. Celia crossed her arms, her voice tight. She thinks her money gives her the right to decide what's best. I'll talk to her. No, Celia said sharply. This time, I will. Nathan's eyes widened. I've kept quiet out of respect. For you. But if she keeps trying to shape their lives from a distance, I'll do whatever it takes to protect them. I don't want you to carry that alone anymore. She met his eyes. Then stand with me, but let me speak. Nathan nodded, something heavy settling in his chest. Not fear of confrontation, but awe. Celia had built her strength in silence. Now she was choosing her voice. Later that afternoon, the doorbell rang again. Vivian Hale stood there in a navy trench coat, pearl earrings gleaming beneath the cloudy light. Her eyes skimmed over Celia coolly before landing on Nathan. I called. You didn't answer. I was with my kids, Nathan said simply. Vivian's lips tightened. Celia stepped forward. You wanted to talk. Say what you came to say. Vivian hesitated. Private education is a non-negotiable. If they are Hales, they should have Hale opportunities. Celia's voice was steady. They are Moreno Hales, and they'll go where they are seen, supported and loved. That doesn't require a zip code or a family crest. Vivian blinked, clearly thrown by her composure. I respect that you care, Celia continued, but you don't get to shape them in your image. You shaped your son. Let us raise our children. Vivian looked at Nathan, searching for backup. But he didn't move. He said quietly but clearly, She's right. For a moment, Vivian looked smaller than he'd ever seen her, like a woman grasping for control not out of power, but out of fear. She turned on her heel without another word. The door clicked shut. Celia stood still, breathing out slowly. Nathan exhaled beside her. You didn't flinch. She gave a small smile. I'm used to doing the hard things alone. You're not alone anymore. She looked at him, uncertain. We're not a couple, Nathan. I know, he said gently, but I still love you. Silence pressed between them like fog. She swallowed. That's not what I need to hear right now. I know that too. He didn't reach for her, didn't try to close the space. He just stood beside her. Later that evening, after the triplets were asleep, Celia stood in the doorway of the living room and watched Nathan quietly pack up the blueprint tubes and tools into a canvas bag. "Start next weekend?" she asked. He turned. "If you'll have me." She paused, then said softly, "Bring gloves and gummy bears. They work better than bribes." Nathan smiled. "Consider it done." And for the first time since he stepped back into her life, Celia didn't question his promise. She just turned off the light, leaving the warmth behind them as they walked down the hallway toward a future neither of them fully understood. Yet. Saturday morning rose golden and windless, as if the sky itself had decided to pause. Dew shimmered on every blade of grass, and birdsong tangled with the soft clatter of wood being unloaded from Nathan's SUV in Celia's backyard. Leo darted around with a tape measure, yelling out random numbers. 8 feet, Dad." "That's like 15 rocket ships." Lila was sketching window designs in a pink notebook, one leg crossed dramatically over the other. "It has to have curtains," she declared. "Privacy is powerful." Finn sat on the back step, quietly holding a bucket of screws like it contained treasure. He was still, but his eyes tracked every move Nathan made. Nathan laid out the blueprints again on the patio table, weighed down at the corners with mason jars full of lemonade and half-eaten animal crackers. His hands were already smudged with pencil dust and sawdust, and his shirt clung to the sweat rising along his collar. Celia stepped outside, holding her phone loosely in one hand, hair braided down her back, the sleeves of her sweatshirt rolled up. "Did you remember the drill bits?" she asked. "I remembered the drill bits," he replied proudly. "And backup batteries, and juice boxes." Her eyes lifted in a quiet smile. "You're learning." Leo pointed at the blueprint. "That platform's gonna need beams. Can I hammer one?" Nathan hesitated. "Maybe let's start with measuring." Celia chuckled and crouched beside Leo, guiding his hand across the tape. 8 feet is just under 2 Leos long. That's a lot of Leo. Nathan watched her. How easily she moved between structure and warmth, how she listened like every word mattered. She had carried all of this for years, alone, and still had enough in her to make room for him. By midday, the frame for the base was half done. Nathan's hands were sore, his back tight, but he didn't stop. Every screw was a promise, every board a piece of what he'd missed. Celia brought out sandwiches. They ate on the grass. The triplets made a game of stacking crusts and licking mustard off the bread. It was messy and loud and perfect. "Do you remember?" Nathan said softly to Celia as the kids ran toward the sprinkler. "When we talked about building a house in Vermont?" She nodded. "You drew plans on napkins." He smiled. "It had a wraparound porch and a skylight over the bed. You wanted to fall asleep looking at stars. I just wanted a place that felt like home." Celia looked out toward the yard, her voice quiet. This is the closest I've ever come to that feeling." Nathan turned to her. "So maybe we're not starting over. Maybe we're just picking up where the blueprint left off." She didn't answer right away. Then, softly, "It's not that simple." "I know." She glanced at the kids, her tone shifting. "They've gotten used to doing things a certain way." "I have too. You coming back? It changes everything. I don't want to erase the life you built. I want to belong in it." Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. She looked down. Her expression shifted. Nathan leaned in. "Something wrong?" She hesitated. The hospital wants me to speak on a panel about pediatric care and single-parent resilience. It's a spotlight talk. Big audience. That's amazing, he said genuinely. She looked at him, torn. It's next Saturday, but it's also the same day as Finn's specialist follow-up. Nathan sat up straighter. Then I'll take him. Celia blinked. It's a cardiology appointment. I can handle it. He might need adjustments to his treatment plan. It could involve tests. I'll ask every question. I'll write everything down. You won't miss a detail. Her lips parted, uncertain. Let me carry something for once, he said, his voice low. Trust me. She searched his face, eyes scanning for doubt, for weakness. She didn't find any. Okay, she whispered. That night, after the kids were bathed and collapsed on a pile of pillows watching a cartoon, Celia and Nathan sat on the porch. The scent of sawdust still hung in the air. The frame of the treehouse stood like a silent vow just beyond the fence. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For showing up. He turned toward her. You thanked me once before, on our wedding night. I never forgot it. I did. His breath caught. I forgot what it felt like to have someone beside me who meant it, who stayed. Nathan didn't speak. He let the ache settle between them. I want to believe in this, she said, barely above a whisper. But I'm scared. So am I, he replied. But I'd rather be scared together than safe alone. She looked at him, tears blinking at the edge of her lashes, but not falling. He reached for her hand, not grasping, not pulling, just offering. She let her fingers slide into his, and for the first time since he'd returned, they didn't speak. They just breathed in sync. Not lovers, not strangers, but something rare. Something real. And behind them, in the quiet hum of the living room, their children laughed, safe, loud, and entirely unaware of how close everything had once come to falling apart. The news broke on a Tuesday morning. Nathan was standing in front of the mirror, adjusting his tie for a board meeting, when his phone buzzed. A message from Marcus blinked across the screen. Page 6. You've been leaked. Nathan's stomach flipped. He opened the link. The headline hit like ice water. Seattle Tech CEO's secret triplets revealed. Romance, reunion, and resignation rumors. Below it was a photo from the park. Him holding Finn's hand. Celia crouched beside Lila. Leo mid-laugh. It was intimate, honest, and never meant for anyone else. He stood frozen as the doorbell rang. Celia. She stepped in, holding a travel mug and a manila folder, her face tense. I got the alert. Nathan nodded. It's everywhere already. Do you know who leaked it? He hesitated. It wasn't me. I swear. I didn't think it was. She dropped the folder on the counter. But it doesn't matter. It's out. She pulled out her phone and opened her inbox. Dozens of emails, subject lines flashing. Interview request. Statement needed. Children's names? Family response? Nathan's chest tightened. The kids. Have they seen it? No, not yet. But it's only a matter of time. She paced the kitchen, shoulders tight. This isn't just about you and me anymore. They're 5. They don't understand cameras in bushes or people shouting questions at drop-off. He stepped forward. Let me fix this. Celia turned sharply. Fix it. You think there's a fix for this? You think a well-worded press release is going to protect them? I'll talk to Marcus. We'll manage the story, redirect it, put out a public statement. We'll emphasize family, not scandal. She shook her head. You still think this is about optics. It's about shielding them. It's about trust, Nathan. He flinched. Her voice dropped. We were building something. Quietly, carefully. And now the whole world knows. My co-workers, my patients' parents, everyone. He took a breath, careful and slow. Vivian. Celia looked up. You think she did this? She has access to the family legal team, and she doesn't like feeling irrelevant. Celia folded her arms. She's more than irrelevant. She's dangerous, and if she did leak this, I want her out of our lives completely. Nathan rubbed his jaw. She won't back down quietly. Then don't let her whisper her way back in. He looked at her, saw the fear she was trying to mask behind frustration. I'll call a press conference. Celia blinked. What? I'll speak. Alone. On record, I'll own it. The kids stay out of it. You stay out of it. It'll be about me. That won't stop the media frenzy. But it might change the tone. Celia leaned against the counter, her voice softer now. This wasn't how I wanted them to grow up. Tabloids, headlines, curated family narratives. I know, he said. But this is where we are, and I'm not going to disappear. Not again. The next morning, Nathan stood behind a podium in front of the Hailtech headquarters. The air was sharp with cold, the kind that crept into your lungs and settled like truth. Cameras clicked. Lights flashed. He took a breath. I've been a CEO, an investor, a son of legacy, he began. But none of that prepared me to say this today. A hush fell over the press crowd. 3 years ago, I lost someone I loved, and without knowing it, I also lost the chance to be a father. Cameras snapped. Reporters leaned in. I recently learned I have 3 children. Beautiful, brilliant, fearless children. And their mother, Celia, raised them without me, with strength I can't begin to describe. He paused. His voice wavered, but he didn't stop. This isn't a scandal. It's a story of consequence. Of choices. Of what happens when ambition outpaces attention. I missed 5 birthdays. I missed first words, first steps, but I will not miss another moment. He looked out at the crowd, gaze steady. I'm not stepping down, but I am stepping up, as a father, as a man who understands now that legacy means nothing without love. The questions came fast, but he didn't answer them. He walked off the stage. Celia watched it all from her office computer during her lunch break. She sat alone, untouched sandwich beside her, the video playing on loop. Her phone buzzed. Lila, is Dad famous now? People are talking in class. Celia, he's still just Dad. The following week was chaos. Reporters lingered near the school. Celia had to meet with the principal to discuss media protocols. A few parents gave her looks, some curious, some kind, but the worst never came. No one called her unfit, no one questioned the kids, and Nathan, he showed up. To ballet, to a reading group at the library, to Finn's quiet garden walks after school. He stopped using assistants to manage kid logistics. He texted himself, confirmed himself. Waited in pickup lines like every other parent. One evening, after the triplets were in bed, Celia found him still on the porch, jacket half-zipped, watching the stars through a child's telescope. They're asleep, she said. He nodded. I like hearing them breathe. She stepped closer. The press is already moving on. Some celebrity divorce took the headlines today. He looked at her. Do you regret letting me back in? She didn't answer right away. Then, softly, no. He turned toward her, hope flickering across his face. "But I'm still afraid," she added. "Not of you, of what we're becoming. Of how fragile it all feels." Nathan reached out, not to pull her in, but to steady her. "I don't want fragile," he said. "I want honest. Even when it's hard." Celia looked at him, the shadows between them warm and real. "Then let's keep building," she said. "But not just tree houses." He nodded. "Us." And in the still of a cold Seattle evening, two people who had already fallen apart once began to trace the shape of something stronger. Not perfect, but honest. And finally, real. The air inside the elementary school buzzed with the kind of chaotic energy only a school showcase night could summon. The hallways were strung with art projects and glitter-glued poster boards, the smell of crayons and cafeteria pizza mingling in the air. Lila twirled through the crowd in her space ballerina costume, complete with foil-wrapped moon boots and a purple tutu. Leo marched ahead with his science display tucked proudly under his arm, while Finn clung close to Nathan's side, holding a small paper model of Jupiter. Nathan looked completely out of place, still in his tailored coat from a late board meeting, but with a glue stick and glitter pen sticking out of his pocket like a badge of honor. Celia met them at the classroom door. Her eyes swept over the kids, then up to Nathan. "You made it." "I wouldn't miss it," he said. "Got here straight from the boardroom." She smiled. "And yet you remembered the glitter pen." Nathan grinned. "Finn's backup, just in case." Inside the room, tiny desks were pushed to the edges. Parents gathered around colorful trifold boards. Celia's fingers brushed Nathan's as they guided the kids to their assigned spots. It was subtle, a whisper of contact, but he felt it all the way through. A teacher clapped to get attention. "Okay, everyone, thank you for coming to this year's Family Constellation Showcase. Tonight's a celebration of identity, imagination, and what makes every family unique." Nathan's breath caught. "Family." He glanced at Celia, who was already looking at him. Lila's presentation went first. She pointed proudly to her drawing of a rocket flying through a ring of hearts. "This is my family rocket. It has 4 engines, me, Leo, Finn, and Mom. And one booster we just found, my dad." The class giggled. Lila beamed. Finn went next. He spoke softly but clearly. "This is Jupiter. It's strong and has a lot of moons. That's like us. We have lots of love. And we don't crash, even when the sky is messy." Nathan's throat tightened. When Leo's turn came, he tugged on Nathan's sleeve. "Can you stand with me?" Nathan's breath hitched. "Yeah, of course." Together, they stood in front of Leo's board. The title read, "My family isn't like yours, and that's okay." Leo cleared his throat. "This is my family. My mom's a nurse. She fixes kids. My dad builds stuff like a treehouse. He used to live far away, but now he lives close. Sometimes families break, but mine is learning how to be whole again." The room was still. Then, quiet applause. A few parents wiped tears. Nathan's eyes burned. After the showcase, the class filtered out into the hallway for punch and cookies. Celia leaned against the lockers, sipping ginger ale from a paper cup. Nathan stood beside her, watching the kids dart between the legs of grown-ups, laughter bouncing off the walls. "You okay?" she asked. He nodded. "That kind of destroyed me." They meant every word. "They see us," he said quietly, "exactly as we are." Celia turned toward him. "And they still call you Dad." He looked at her. "I want to talk to you about something." Her expression shifted. "Okay. I've been offered a role, different from what I'm doing now. Same company, but more remote. Less travel, more time with the kids. Celia straightened. Are you serious? Nathan nodded. I'm not just saying I want to be present. I'm rearranging my life so I can be. She stared at him for a long moment, the noise of the hallway fading behind her. That's big. I know. Are you doing it for me? No, he said softly. I'm doing it for them. And for me. And if it makes space for us too, I'd be lucky. Celia didn't speak. Instead, she took a slow breath, looking at the chaos, the joy, the ordinary beauty around them. Then she whispered, Come by tomorrow. We'll make pancakes. His lips twitched into a smile. With peas? She laughed. God, no. With blueberries. They left the school with the triplets between them, all holding hands, 6 arms connected in a line of trust and motion. The city buzzed around them, but the noise didn't matter. At home, after the kids had brushed their teeth and insisted on 3 bedtime stories and 1 dance party, Celia stood in the doorway of the living room while Nathan helped Finn into bed. The boy looked up at him. You're staying? Nathan smoothed his blanket. I'm here, buddy. Always. Finn nodded and closed his eyes. Celia leaned against the wall, arms folded. He asked that question every night for months after you showed up. Tonight's the first time he said it like a statement, not a wish. Nathan looked at her, heart full. She stepped closer. You're changing, Nathan. In ways I didn't think you could. He reached for her hand. I had to. She held his gaze. Just don't stop. He squeezed gently. Not this time. The house settled around them. Laughter had faded, but something deeper lingered. Peace. And the beginnings of something Celia never thought she'd feel again with him. Belonging. The hospital lights were too bright, sterile in a way that made everything feel distant, like the real world had paused outside the automatic doors. Nathan sat in the small pediatric cardiac unit waiting room, elbows on his knees, fingers laced so tightly his knuckles had turned white. His watch ticked rhythmically, pointless, steady, cold. Inside the examination room, Finn lay on a table, wires gently placed on his chest, a small monitor blinking quietly to the beat of his tiny heart. Nathan had stayed beside him through the intake questions, held his hand while the nurse adjusted the sensors, whispered jokes to distract him when the gel touched his skin and made him flinch. But now, it was just waiting. The specialist had asked to review some new scans. Alone. Nathan had never felt so useless in his life. Celia's voice came through the phone in his pocket again. He didn't answer right away. Then, after a breath, he did. Hey, he said. Any updates? She asked, trying to sound calm. She wasn't. He could hear it in the way her breath caught after every sentence. Not yet. They're still looking at the scan. Finn's okay. He's resting. I should have come. You had the panel. That was important. He's more important. You've done every appointment, every overnight scare, every early morning pharmacy run. Let me do this. Celia didn't answer at first. Then, just tell me the second you know anything. I promise. He hung up, stood, paced, sat again. It wasn't supposed to be serious. It was a routine follow-up, just something to check off. So why did the specialist suddenly go quiet after the scan? The door opened, and Dr. Menon stepped out, calm but serious. Nathan stood. We saw a small change in one of Finn's valve measurements, she said. It's not dangerous at the moment, but it's something we'll need to monitor more closely now. Nathan's heart dropped. What kind of change? It's a narrowing, still mild, but it wasn't there in the last scan. We need to repeat tests in a few weeks and potentially add medication to help reduce strain. Is he going to need surgery? Not necessarily, but it's a possibility down the line. Nathan ran a hand through his hair. Does he know? He asked if it meant he couldn't run with his class next week. I told him we'd work around it. He closed his eyes for a second, then nodded. Thank you. When he stepped back into the room, Finn looked up at him, eyes big, calm, curious. Was it bad? Finn asked. Nathan knelt beside the table. Not bad. But something we have to take care of together, okay? Finn nodded like a little adult. I don't like the sticky pads. I don't like them either. Finn leaned his head on Nathan's shoulder, so easily, so trustingly, and Nathan felt something inside him unravel. I'm here, buddy, he whispered. Every step. Later that afternoon, Nathan carried Finn into the apartment, wrapped in his jacket like a bundle. Celia met them at the door, eyes wide with worry. She didn't speak. Just opened her arms and took him. Nathan watched her hold him, gentle, protective, fierce. They tucked Finn into the couch under his favorite blanket. Lila and Leo hovered close, sensing something was off but not pressing. In the kitchen, Nathan explained everything to Celia in a low voice, while she leaned against the counter, arms crossed, eyes fixed. I should have been there, she said again. You were, you are. I just got to carry it this time. She looked at him, searching his face. And then she broke, just for a moment. Her head dipped. A single tear slipped down her cheek. He stepped forward, not to fix it, but to be near. I was so scared, she said. Every time he gets quiet like that, I flash back to when he was a baby. Blue lips, tiny chest rising like it had to fight for every breath. I held him through every night back then, every fever, every second of thinking I might lose him. I know, Nathan said, voice cracking. And I wasn't there. She looked up at him, eyes full. But you are now. He reached out, brushing the tear gently from her cheek. They stood in silence, the distance between them smaller than it had been in years. Then Leo shouted from the other room, Mom! Finn says he wants pancakes again! Celia laughed, wet and tired and real. Of course he does, Nathan grinned. He's clearly a genius. That night, after the triplets had fallen asleep in a pile on the living room rug, Celia walked Nathan to the door. He lingered there, jacket in hand, heart heavier than usual. Thank you, she said, for today, for being calm when I couldn't be. I'm always going to be there when it's hard, he said. Even when you don't see me. She looked at him like she believed him, for the first time, entirely. Nathan, she said softly, you're not just earning back our kids, you're earning back me. He didn't speak, just nodded. Eyes locked with hers, a silent promise hanging in the space between them. Then she opened the door. And for the first time since he'd returned, Nathan didn't look back. Because he didn't have to. She would. Saturday started with clouds and cinnamon pancakes. Nathan stood in Celia's kitchen, wearing one of Leo's world's best builder aprons and flipping pancakes, while Lila instructed from the stool like a tiny food critic. Too brown, and they taste like burnt clouds, she said, poking at a plate. Nathan raised an eyebrow. And what do perfect clouds taste like, exactly? Vanilla and sunshine, she replied with absolute conviction. Behind them, Finn was curled up on the couch with his fox, watching cartoons. Leo sat on the floor, scribbling additions to the treehouse blueprint, now featuring a periscope and snack elevator. Celia appeared in the doorway, holding 2 mugs and watching the scene, like it was still sinking in. "You're officially part of the morning circus now." "I thought I already was," Nathan said, taking a mug from her. She leaned against the doorway. "You were orbiting. Now you're in the middle." Nathan looked over at the kids, flour in their hair, syrup on their cheeks, laughter rising like it had always lived here. "Best orbit I've ever been in." Celia's smile softened, but before she could speak, her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it and frowned. "It's Marcus." Nathan set the spatula down. "My Marcus?" "Yeah. He texted earlier, said he needed to talk. Something about the foundation paperwork." Nathan wiped his hands and picked up the phone. "Let me call him back." He stepped outside to the small patio and dialed. Marcus answered on the second ring. "Hey, man." "I was just about to call again." "What's going on?" Nathan asked. There was a pause on the line. "I know you've been focused on the kids and the transition, but Vivian's trying to stall the Hail Care Foundation launch." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Why?" "She's pulling strings on the board, claims reallocating those funds wasn't in line with the company's long-term priorities. She's trying to freeze the approval until you show up for a vote." Nathan ran a hand through his hair. "The whole point of this was to build something lasting, something that matters." "I know. But she's calling favors." "You need to make a statement. I'll do it Monday." "Make it count," Marcus said. "She's betting you won't." When Nathan stepped back inside, Celia was plating the last pancake, but her eyes flicked to him immediately. "Everything okay?" He nodded slowly. "Vivian's trying to block the launch. She doesn't want the foundation tied to my name or to the kids." Celia didn't respond right away. She was quiet, thoughtful. Then she asked, "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to fight it. I've made enough speeches. Now it's time to act." She stared at him for a moment longer, and when she finally spoke, her voice was quiet. "Make sure you're doing it for them, not just for pride." Nathan's eyes locked with hers. "Everything I'm doing now is for them. And for you." Later that day, they drove out to the construction site in the backyard. The frame of the treehouse was almost complete, just the railings and finishing touches left. Nathan climbed up first, testing each step, then helped Finn up behind him. Celia followed with Lila and Leo, and soon all five were perched atop the wooden platform, Seattle's skyline peeking over treetops in the distance. Leo opened his sketchbook. "Okay. So we need to name it, the treehouse." Lila gasped. "Yes." "Something epic." Finn looked at Nathan. "You name it." Nathan looked around at them, these tiny people who had changed everything. Celia, sitting with her knees pulled to her chest, smiling despite herself. He cleared his throat. "How about the Star House?" Lila tilted her head. "Why?" Nathan's voice was low, full. "Because stars don't always burn in the same place. Sometimes they disappear for a while, but they always come back." Celia looked at him, her eyes glassy. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. As the sun dropped lower and the first lights of the city flickered on, they sat together in the Star House, no longer orbiting each other, but anchored in something real. Something growing. Something they were building. Together. It was the kind of evening that held its breath. The school auditorium buzzed with pre-show nerves, parents rustling programs, teachers whispering stage directions behind curtains, kids in oversized costumes darting between folding chairs. The Triplets were all participating in the school's annual Voices of the Future Talent Night. And from the minute Nathan saw Lila's glittered cardboard wings, He knew the emotional damage was coming for him. Celia leaned against the back wall, arms crossed lightly over her chest, scanning the program. "You ready for this?" Nathan adjusted his collar and nodded. "No, but I brought tissues." "Good man." They both smiled. Lila went first, stepping onto the small stage wearing silver leggings and antennae made from pipe cleaners. She held the mic with both hands like it weighed more than she did. "My name is Lila," she said proudly. "And I'm an alien poet from the planet Kindness." Soft laughter from the audience. She cleared her throat and recited, "Some dads build castles, some moms bake cake. But mine built a star house where hearts never break. We fly with our feelings. We land where it's safe. And even if space is big, we're never lost in place." Nathan blinked hard. She curtsied. The crowd clapped. Celia's hand found his without thinking. Leo followed with a comedy act that was half knock-knock jokes, half chaotic impressions of Nathan trying to build furniture. Finn closed the segment by playing a lullaby on a mini keyboard. Slow, careful, every note deliberate. At the final tone, he looked out into the audience and smiled right at Nathan. Later, as the crowd filtered out, Celia and Nathan waited near the front doors with the other parents. The triplets buzzed around them, handing out paper stars they'd made as thank you gifts. "I don't think I've ever been prouder," Nathan said softly. "They're good," Celia said, then paused. "But part of me keeps waiting for the next curveball." He turned to her. "Like what?" She shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe it's habit. Maybe it's years of handling everything alone. I keep bracing." He was quiet a moment. "I'm not leaving." "I know." "But you don't fully believe it." Celia looked at him. "I'm trying." A silence settled, tender but honest. Then Lila tugged at Celia's hand. "Can he come with us tonight?" "For bedtime?" Celia looked at her daughter, then at Nathan. "Please," Finn added softly. "Just for the stories." Celia smiled. "Okay, but only if he voices all the characters." Nathan looked mock terrified. "Even the Dragon Princess?" "Especially the Dragon Princess," Leo said, smirking. At home, the bedtime chaos was beautiful and familiar. Pillows everywhere, stuffed animals in formation, pajamas inside out. Celia read the first book, Nathan the second. On the third, he slipped into a British accent that had Lila in tears from laughing. After the kids were tucked in, Celia lingered in the hallway as Nathan turned off lights. He looked at her in the dim glow of the nightlight, the silence between them full again, but less afraid now. "I went to see Marcus this morning," he said. "Before the showcase." Celia tilted her head. "Why?" "I signed over Hailtech voting control to the board, effective immediately." Her eyes widened. "You did what?" "I stepped back, not down, but back. Permanently." She stared at him, trying to process. "I want to live a life I recognize," he said, "not one that looks good on paper." "You built that company." "I built it for the wrong reasons." "This," he gestured around them, "this is what I want to build now." Her voice lowered. "What happens next?" Nathan stepped closer, careful. "That's up to you." She looked at him, truly looked, like she was seeing him not as the man who left, but the one who stayed. "I don't want to erase the past," she whispered. "Even the hard parts, because they got us here." He nodded. "I don't want perfect, Celia. I want real." She hesitated. Then, "Stay." Nathan swallowed. "Tonight?" "No. Stay." The word settled, like truth. like home. And in that small hallway, surrounded by stars drawn in crayon and the hum of sleeping children, they closed the distance between what they had been and what they were finally becoming. The morning of the triplets' 6th birthday arrived with a sky so clear it almost felt like a gift. The house, their house now, was filled with laughter, confetti, and the kind of joyful chaos that only children can create. Streamers hung across doorways. A galaxy-themed cake waited in the kitchen, topped with tiny edible planets and 3 candles ready to be claimed. Nathan stood in the backyard beside the star house, tying the final banner to the railing. The hand-painted sign read, "To the moon and back again." He stepped down just in time to see Finn running toward him in a paper crown, arms out like wings. "Dad!" "Lila says you're making pancakes tomorrow." Nathan caught him mid-flight. "I am. Blueberry." "No peas." Finn grinned. "You remembered." From the patio, Celia watched with her arms folded and a soft smile curving her lips. Her hair was pulled back, loose curls falling around her face, and she wore a sweatshirt. The triplets had tie-dyed themselves. Uneven, chaotic, perfect. Nathan set Finn down and walked toward her. "You okay?" She nodded. "I've been watching you all morning." "Why?" "Because for the first time since the day I found out I was pregnant, I'm not waiting for the other shoe to drop." He looked at her. "I didn't know I could be this man." "I did," she said. "I just couldn't make you be him." He reached for her hand. "I won't waste a second of what we have now." Celia didn't say anything. She just squeezed his hand and leaned her head on his shoulder, and for a moment, the noise of the party softened into something private and still. Later, as the sun began to dip, guests started to leave. Neighborhood kids were wrangled by their parents, teachers waved goodbye, and the yard finally settled into the quiet hum of evening. The triplets sat in a circle under the star house, trading pieces of leftover cake and giggling at inside jokes only 6-year-olds understood. Celia and Nathan brought out blankets and cocoa, settling beside them. "We want a story," Lila announced. "A real one." Nathan raised a brow. "A real one?" Leo nodded. "Like, from when you guys were younger?" Celia smiled. "You mean before you 3 existed?" "Yes," Finn chirped. "Tell us the one where you got married." Nathan glanced at Celia. She raised an eyebrow. "Go on," it said. He took a breath. "Well, once upon a time, I met a woman who was smarter than me, kinder than me, and so breathtaking, I forgot how to introduce myself." Celia snorted. "He really did. Stared at me for a full 10 seconds without speaking." Nathan laughed. And somehow, she still agreed to a coffee. Then a dinner, then the rest. Lila leaned forward. "And you got married?" "We did," Celia said. "It was small, just a few people, but it felt big to us." "But then you got lost, right?" Leo asked quietly. Celia looked at Nathan. He nodded. "We did." "We both got lost. But then you came back." Finn's voice was barely above a whisper. Nathan looked at his son, this small, brave boy with the big eyes and quiet strength. "I came back," he said. "Because no matter how far I went, I never stopped loving them." "And now you're not lost anymore?" Lila asked. Nathan looked at Celia, then at all 3 of them, huddled close in the grass. "No, I'm home." The kids grew quiet, wrapped in thought and cocoa steam. One by one, they leaned against pillows and arms and laps, eyes fluttering closed, the kind of deep, trust-filled sleep that only love could earn. Celia and Nathan sat together under the soft glow of the string lights. You know, she said softly, there's still a lot we haven't figured out. Co-parenting, timing, your role at the foundation. I know. I'm not ready to talk wedding rings or shared tax returns or new names on mailboxes. I know, he whispered. She turned to him, her voice warm. But I'm ready for you to stay. He looked at her, something fragile and full in his chest. I'm not going anywhere. The wind moved gently through the trees, carrying with it the echoes of a home reclaimed, of stories rewritten, of love not returned to the way it was, but made into something stronger. Celia leaned her head against him. You know what I've learned? What? That healing doesn't always look like forgiveness. Sometimes it looks like being seen. Every version of yourself. Nathan wrapped his arm around her. And loving each one. The lights flickered above them. The triplets breathed softly nearby. And the night held them. 5 people under a star house they built together. Not perfect, not polished, but full of something unshakably real. Because sometimes, love doesn't need a second chance. It just needs someone to finally stay. If you enjoyed this video, comment 1 to let me know. If not, comment 2. Your thought mattered to me either way.